UFC Fight Night Taira versus Albazi is coming up in a couple weeks, and today, guys, I have the full card breakdown for you with timestamps if you'd like to skip to any part of the video. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle. I am your guy with many YouTube channels. Guys, we are going to be breaking down this card as much as we possibly can. We're going to be taking a look at betting odds. We don't have betting odds for every single fight on this card, but the majority of them we do have betting odds. We're going to be taking a look at that. We're going to give betting tips. I'm going to give my thoughts, and we're going to break these down as much as we possibly can. Like I said, if you'd like to skip any part of the video, timestamps will be there if you'd like to skip to any part of the video. With that being said, guys, let's get started with the early prelim opener. And for our early prelim opener, we have Azamat Bekoev taking on Yousri Belgaroui, and I'm actually really excited to see Yousri in the UFC. We're going to talk a little bit about him, but I do want to break down Azamat Bekoev first, because Azamat Bekoev, he is a well-rounded fighter who really does a great job dictating where the fight goes. When it comes to technique, he's pretty technical when it comes everywhere, but sometimes he can be... It's weird because sometimes he can get caught lacking with technique, but usually, though, he does a good job keeping things right. He just slips up here and there. He was looking phenomenal before joining the UFC, and the hype level has only gone up since. The dude has been really motivated, improving, and really looking to make a name for himself. But both of his UFC fights so far have been really nice wins, and they've been against really good opponents. Like, it's fun watching Azamat Bekoev right now. But coming into the UFC is another babyface assassin. Yousri Belgaroui is a fighter that trains out of Glover's gym, Taira MMA and Fitness. He is a fantastic striker. He can do it all when it comes to striking. He has with precision, power, accuracy, cardio. He also is not afraid to cheat with things like in eye pokes, especially he's good at. After losing to Marco Tulio in the Contender Series, he bounced back with 3 really nice wins. Another one of those being on the Contender Series, which was against Taira, but in that, it was one of the best striking matches I've ever seen on the show. And like, honestly, even in general, it was high level. He's getting this UFC opportunity against a rising name, but unfortunately, Yousri Belgaroui, is taking this fight on short notice. So both guys are pretty hyped up right now. I would say the hype level is a little bit more on Azamat Bekoev. The dude's been taking to social media. He's been looking good. It's one of those fights where I want both guys to win. I really respect the amount of effort Azamat Bekoev is putting into himself, so I kind of want him to win, but at the same time, I always want to cheer for Glover's gym. I love Glover, and I want him and his students to succeed, kind of like what we're going to be talking about with Cub Swanson moving forward on the card, okay? Regardless, when these two match up, I would imagine that Azamat Bekoev, technique-wise, could keep up with Yousri Belgaroui, because I do think that Belgaroui is a better striker, but the problem is, we haven't seen him. He's been fighting some okay guys. Like on the Contender Series, he had okay opponents. But we've seen Azamat Bekoev in the UFC so far. And he's had a little bit of a run in LFA too as well. Zach Reese is a great win. And Ryan Loder's an okay win. Like, the Ryan Loder has some potential in the UFC. So I like what I've seen from Azamat Bekoev right now. I'm very, very high on how much he's like seems to be motivated and really wanting to make a name for himself. He's had a good experience against good talent. The reach here, though, might be just a little bit of an issue, but also on top of that, Yousri Belgaroui is taking this fight on short notice, so I'm going to pick Azamat Bekoev. It's going to be one of those fights where I don't really want either guy to lose because both of them have potential. I want to see, and I like to cheer for Glover's guy. I like Azamat, but I am going to pick Azamat for this video. All right, guys, let's continue on up the card over here, and actually, and I forgot to mention, like, and for a Apex card, this card's actually pretty stacked. I'm excited to see it. We have a couple WMMA fights where I'm not exactly excited to see, but this card's been really good. Like, I'm excited for this matchup, too. We have Felipe Bunes taking on Rafael. Estevam, 13-0, 14-7. Felipe Bunes looking to keep his spot within the UFC. Let's break him down. Let's talk about Felipe Bunes before everybody. Felipe Bunes, he is a grappler with decently, sneaky good hands with good shots, but obviously, like, his game plan, he wants to just get things going on the ground at all times. He has had mixed success, like I just mentioned, in the UFC so far, being fed to Joshua Van, which honestly, like, he did very well in the beginning of that fight, and that loss is aging incredibly well. He's got a good win over Jose. He ended up getting a good win over Jose Johnson after that, but he certainly has potential, and I'm excited to see what that he can do. I think he's a little bit better than his 14-7 record, but there's only so much that I can say about that, right? At the end of the day, he's had mixed success. But on the other side of the coin, we have Rafael Estevam. Rafael Estevam is a high-pressure striker and a grappler who just wants to get like really, really close to you and take your head clean off. Either that or get a takedown and just destroy you from there. He's a very dangerous guy. He has great takedowns, he has good control, and decent submissions behind that. He also has really, really sneaky throws, which are fun to watch. He can fade, unfortunately, as fights go on, but in high-pressure wars, like he's 13-0, he's been looking good. You can't always count on him to fade. It's just, it's just something that you have to worry about, right? So when these two match up, obviously, you have Felipe Bunes, who we've been seeing for a little while. Again, I've been watching him since the LFA, and he's been shockingly inactive, but at least he's coming off of a win over here. But Rafael Estevam, he's 13-0. He's been looking pretty good. Like I said, I've been keeping up with these guys, and I like the win over Charles Johnson that he had. Like, he's had a pretty good run in the UFC so far. I think, and I don't know what the odds are, because unfortunately, OddsGym does not have, this is the final fight, I believe, on the entire card that OddsGym doesn't have odds for. I would imagine Rafael Estevam will be a pretty big favorite over here, because I don't see people really talking about Felipe Bunes, but Felipe Bunes is a pretty underrated guy. I could very well see him getting a win over here, but I don't think that he's going to bring a pace that would really make Rafael Estevam slow down. So I think Rafael Estevam is going to continue on with his game. He's in his prime. Felipe Bunes is getting up there right now. He's probably going to be a little bit more motivated. I'm going to go with Rafael Estevam, although I'm not too confident on this fight. I like Rafael Estevam. I think Felipe Bunes is an underrated fighter, but again, my pick is going to be Estevam for this fight. But now, guys, let's continue on over to Rinya Nakamura, coming back after his fresh fraud check, and he's taking on Nathan Fletcher. This is really good matchmaking by the UFC, because both guys are kind of in the same spot they're UFC right now. I know Nathan Fletcher's lost before, but it's two guys that were a little bit hyped up, and then they've just recently lost a lot of steam. And Rinya Nakamura, we'll start with him. He is a decently well-rounded fighter with really nice power and good wrestling to back up that power. The striking technique could use some work, but his aggression is so good with the way that he comes forward. Like, he does a good job with it. He has good takedowns, nice ground and pound behind that. His BJJ defense, though, it's incredible. He is very patient. He fights against things calmly, perfectly, and also sometimes, if you're talking about the BJJ defense, I like that he punches his way out of submissions. The other thing that I can think to mention about Rinya Nakamura is that he can be caught while he's moving forward. Now, after people were hyping up this guy like no tomorrow, unfortunately, he did end up getting fraud checked against Muin Gafarov, where he did nothing but get completely outstruck. So this dude needs to come back. He needs to bounce back in a very big way, and he's very capable of doing so. Like, he's looked good besides his last fight, but he has taken on Nathan Fletcher, who is also a pretty good, well-rounded fighter who does a good job when he's pressuring his opponents. He's pretty decent, both on the feet and on the ground, but he's one of those guys in the UFC where he really doesn't, shine anywhere, you know? So he's coming off of his first UFC loss over to Callan Logran, which, honestly, I personally thought he won, but it was close enough not to complain. So, like I said, both guys are in the same kind of spot in their career right now. Nathan Fletcher, while I know a lot of people were hyping up Nathan Fletcher too, and I was excited to see him. He got his win in the UFC, and then a split decision with Callan Logran isn't exactly aging so well, but Rinya Nakamura losing to Muin Gafarov also doesn't really look all that great. So a lot of people have been saying fraud checks for both guys. I still like what I've seen prior to their most recent fights, and even then Nathan Fletcher didn't have a bad performance, I would say. You know, it was just I don't know, I feel like he should be steamrolling Callan Logran a little bit, you know? I don't know how Rinya Nakamura is going to show up. There was a guy with a lot of confidence. He ended up getting fraud checked. That was a big loss to have. He's 30 years old, though. He is in his prime. There's room for improvement. And, he looked really, really bad in that fight. So, you never know, guys. Guys show up to fights injured. Guys show up and they're not healthy. Some people even get sick. We don't know what was going on. If we see another performance from Rinya Nakamura like we just saw in his previous bout, then we could say, okay, holy fraud check. But I'm not exactly ready to say that Rinya Nakamura has been fraud checked. Let's see how he bounces back. But I'm actually going to go against him, though. I'm going to pick Nathan Fletcher. I think he's been a little bit more consistent, and I know that he has one more loss, but I do like the performances that I have seen from Nathan Fletcher. Even in his last fight, I thought he won that fight. It was close enough not to complain, like I said, but I'm going to go with Nathan Fletcher in this bout, but it is another low-confidence pick. Let's see what OddsGym has over here. Whoa! Rinya Nakamura is still a big favorite. Did we not learn our lesson? Guys, I'm fine if you like Rinya Nakamura in this matchup, honestly. I'm picking Nathan Fletcher, I still am. But I think it's a close fight. It's not confident. It's one little bit from me. But I don't think that we should be parlaying Rinya Nakamura like last time. So keep that in mind if you're somebody who likes to build these big grand parlays. Okay, Rinya Nakamura could absolutely blow that entire thing for you. But Nathan Fletcher, again, is going to be my pick for this video. Continuing up the card, though, guys, we have Rodolfo Vieira taking on Tresean Gore. I think this is actually another really sneaky matchup, man. I like it. Tresean Gore. I always feel bad for Tresean Gore. We're going to talk about his 5-3 record there, okay? But let's get started with the breakdown over here. We'll start with Rodolfo Vieira. Rodolfo Vieira, he is a BJJ fighter with fast and honestly pretty decent hands to back up that grappling game that he has. He has good takedowns, he has great control, he has good patience, and good submissions, obviously, with the BJJ. And he also has faded in fights before, but you can't count on it. He's had some up and downs in the UFC, but overall, the dude's a really good fighter. Even in his last loss that he just had, it was a decent performance, and he's been performing well for almost 36 years old in this division. Tresean Gore, on the other hand, he is a heavy-handed wrestler who is pretty low volume in general, but he is also really tough. He has really good heart. He's, unfortunately, this is what I was going to mention, like we'll talk about it now, he's 5-3 in MMA right now, and I kind of feel bad for him because besides Cody Brundage, he's had a really tough resume coming into MMA so far. Like, people dog on him for his record, but I think he's had some good fights, and like, you tried coming into the UFC 5-3 and fighting the guys that he's been fighting, man. And he's getting another tough fight, man. Like in Rodolfo Vieira, I think Rodolfo Vieira is also a really good fighter. And I'm going to pick Rodolfo Vieira. It's going to be interesting because it's one of those things where you have a wrestler going against Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And typically, I would choose the wrestler if a wrestler is going up against a grappler. But I think Rodolfo Vieira is better on the ground and better in grappling in general than I believe Tresean Gore is as a wrestler. If they're on the feet, like Tresean Gore is pretty heavy hands, but I think that Rodolfo Vieira will like get things going a little bit more. Rodolfo Vieira is almost 36 years old. I don't think that he's like, he's not approaching like wash territory at all or anything like that. Like even in his last performance, like I've liked what I've seen from him. So when these two match up, I'm going to pick Rodolfo Vieira. I don't know how he's going to win. My guess would be decision. But Tresean Gore is pretty up and down, has some fun fights. So, well, I can't wait to see this one. I'm going to pick Rodolfo Vieira, the black belt hunter, in this bout. Let's see what OddsJam has to say. And Rodolfo Vieira is sitting at a -217 favorite. Honestly, I get that. I like how he's been fighting recently. And, I just noticed that we don't have odds for a couple more fights, guys. I'm sorry about that. Comes with making these videos really early with OddsJam over here, okay, guys? But again, I am going to pick Rodolfo Vieira to get the job done in this bout. Now let's move things over to the featured prelim. Nick Klein taking on Andrey Pulyaev, who, how long has it been since Andrey's last loss? Like, I feel like we just, I was about to say, I feel like we just saw him, and it's been within 3 months. Maybe I thought it was like a little bit sooner than that, but regardless, let's break these two guys down. It should be an okay fight, man, because we have Nick Klein, who is, in general, a pretty well-rounded fighter who he can fight well technically, and he can finish fights both on the feet and on the ground. He's like, it's weird breaking him down because he's one of those fighters that we need to see more of because against his first, competition, I guess you could say, he just got pounded to death besides, a lucky elbow that he ended up getting. So far, he doesn't seem to be all that, but it could be too early to say. Previously, he's had good technique, but I don't know. It's tough to break him down. We need to see more. But we have Andrey Pulyaev on the other hand. He is a sharp striker with very strong power in his punches. His shots really stand out. He's one of those guys where he punches and it just looks like they hurt. He has a decent ground game. He's hittable. He's open to counters, but he is also coming off of his first loss in the UFC to Christian Leroy Duncan, which honestly, there really wasn't a ton of note in that fight. He just got outlanded, and he felt like a really, really good guy in his UFC debut. So I think that's something to mention over here. And Andrey Pulyaev, before that, I've been keeping up with him. He's looked good, man. He just ended up there is a big, big difference from when he fought Liam Anderson on the Contender Series to fighting Christian Leroy Duncan, a very, very polished striker with good UFC experience now. So it's nothing to take away from him. But guys, I don't really have anything further to break down about this fight. I'm feeling good about Andrey Pulyaev in this fight. Nick Klein does have potential. He does. But I've only seen him have good performances against anybody of insignificance. And I know that he took on a tough opponent too in Mansour Abdul-Malik, but I'm not even convinced that Mansour Abdul-Malik is high level yet. The dude is has some insane KO power, and he's been fighting Nick Klein's, So it's a really tough one. I need to see more from Nick Klein. I have seen a lot from Andrey Pulyaev, and I'm going to pick him to win because he certainly has more potential, and I would imagine he's going to be a lot sharper on the feet. So Andrey Pulyaev, again, is going to be my pick in this bout. Now, about that last fight being the featured prelim, I forgot there was another one. Piero Rodriguez taking on Ketlen Souza. Banger of a fight. This one I'm looking forward to more than anything on the card. More than the co-main event, the main event. Ribavix is on the card. Yeah, now this is a fight that I want to see. But honestly, Ketlen Souza is okay to watch. Piero Rodriguez is okay too. We'll start with Piero Rodriguez over here. Piero Rodriguez is a very good striker who actually, at times can finish fights. She uses calculated chaos to get her finishes. She prefers to strike, but she can explore ground options as well. She's been pretty inactive, but for the division, she's had some okay fights. She's had some okay performances. It's literally the worst division in MMA history, so make of that what you will with her performances. But Ketlen Souza, on the other hand, she is a good Muay Thai striker with power for the division. She really tries to hurt you when she's at an octagon, and she has a good clinch game behind that. decent power for the division too. Like, she's been looking okay. She also has some underrated and sneaky BJJ, but she also, unfortunately, can be taken down and does suffer against leg kicks. But then again, can you count on Piera Rodriguez to fight that way? Like, we don't see a lot of IQ in this division exactly. And I know I just mentioned it's the worst division in UFC history. I was exaggerating when I said that. It's just the talent level's garbage, man. So please I don't want to hear it down below. I know 135 is the worst division of all time. It's just like, you have Ketlen Souza, who sometimes looks good, and then it reminds me like, oh yeah, that's why you're the level that you are. Piera Rodriguez too. Nothing about her has really like made me go, oh my god, look out for this girl. And that's why I'm going to pick Ketlen Souza, because at least sometimes Ketlen Souza shows up and she looks like a pretty capable fighter. And now, I know Piera Rodriguez, she can finish, but anything that I've ever seen from her, nothing's made me go, whoa. At least Ketlen Souza, like the Yasmin Uraguchi performance. Like, I've liked some of her fights, I've liked some of her performances, and I can't say the same against Piera Rodriguez. So, for that reason, I'm going to be picking Ketlen Souza. She might show up and actually have a danger aspect to this fight. Ketlen Souza is going to be a pick of mine. I'm actually fairly confident in saying that, to be honest with you. Now, guys, before we move on to the main card, let me stop you for just a second. As you might know, I talk a lot about betting on this channel. So if you would like to see what I'm exactly doing with my money each week, or either just want to support the channel in general, check out the channel membership is in the pinned comment description down below, or the button right next to the subscribe button. Every single Friday or Saturday, I will be posting a community members video, or a community members post, along with a members only video explaining exactly what I'm doing with my money each week. Again, depending on whether or not I want to bet on Friday fights, which I don't always do. I am primarily a UFC bettor, but things I dive into: LFA, One Championship, PFL here and there, Octagon here and there. The membership is very cheap compared to other channels, so I'd appreciate if you check it out, and thank you so much for listening to me yap this entire time. So let's get into the main card right now. And kicking off this main card, we have Neil Magny back. Sad to see, 29-13 at this point. He's taken on Elizeu Zaleski, and unfortunately, both guys are in a little bit similar spots in their career right now, man. I feel bad for Neil Magny, because Neil Magny is one of my favorite fighters. I think he is so underappreciated, and his performances have been lackluster recently. Obviously, he's getting up there in age. He's at 1,000,000 miles on the gas tank. Like, it just sucks for Neil Magny. And I want to see him get a win. I want to see him get one win and then retire. That's what I would love to see from Neil Magny. So we'll start breaking Neil Magny down, okay? Neil Magny is a well-rounded and very experienced fighter. He does excel when he's able to slow down the pace of his fights and control his opponents in the clinch and use and grind out his wrestling. His age, unfortunately, though, has been really showing recently, and he is offering less and less resistance to things like calf kicks. Besides his fight with Mike Malott, he's unfortunately just been looking worse and worse. Like, it's sad to see, but he's old now, and like, I think I just mentioned this, but like, he has 1,000,000 miles in his tank. Like, he has been through it with the toughest guys. Elizeu Zaleski, on the other hand, a little bit in the same boat, but not really. Like, he's an all-around fighter who is decent everywhere, doesn't really shine anywhere. He can fight at any point. He's one of those guys that's just inconsistent, but he's fought some incredible talent, just like Neil Magny has. He is a very underrated general fighter, and he's also up there in age, but his age isn't showing nearly like Neil Magny's age is showing. So when you break these two fighters down, they're in similar spots in their career. It's weird because Neil Magny is younger than Elizeu Zaleski, but Elizeu Zaleski has still been looking good. Like, at least he can show up and he can, like, you see the potential even in his losses that he has, and he belongs in the UFC and he can still win the fights. Neil Magny, I don't think I see that anymore. Like, he was even losing to Mike Malott until Mike Malott just fraud checked himself. Like, that was a slow finish, and he wouldn't be able to do that to a lot of people. You know what I mean? So, and I know Neil Magny has been taking on the toughest of the tough. He's taken on some incredible talent over the years. And same with Elizeu Zaleski. I just, unfortunately, at this point, and I hate to say it because, again, Neil Magny actually is one of my favorite fighters. I really like him as a person, and I always want to cheer for him to win. And I still will be cheering for him to win. But I can't see him winning a fight anymore. Not in the UFC. He is, I don't want to say washed, but I think he's washed. He's not the same guy. So I don't care who he'd be fighting. I'd probably pick against him. I can't think of one person in the welterweight division that I'd pick Neil Magny against right now. And I'm sure there's somebody at like the bottom of the rankings that he might be able to beat. And I know he's still taking on really tough guys, but he's just slow. He's slow now. It's not even like he can push a pace with his cardio. And he's actually getting finished. Yeah, I hate to say it, but I am completely off the Neil Magny train. But I'm going to be sitting down. I'm going to be hoping that he's winning. So I'm going to pick Elizeu Zaleski. He's going to be able to put a pace on. I don't know if he's going to finish Neil Magny. If he's going to finish Neil Magny, maybe a submission. But it's gonna suck, man. Neil Magny does have a big reach over here. But yeah, I can't pick Neil Magny to win a fight anymore. I'm gonna pick Elizeu Zaleski, but I am gonna be cheering with my heart that Neil Magny gets the job done. Let's take a look. Neil Magny sitting at the underdog, a little bit of an underdog, which is weird. Is Elizeu Zaleski sitting at minus 220? I thought that would be bigger. Maybe people are talking about like this is a step down in competition for Neil Magny, but Elizeu Zaleski, he's still a really good fighter. Interesting. But yeah, again, I'm going to pick Elizeu Zaleski. I like Elizeu Zaleski, but I hope Neil Magny wins. All right, guys, let's continue on up the card, though, to a really, really sneaky banger of a fight, that being Esteban Ribovics taking on Elvis Brenner. And I know people are off the Elvis Brenner train, but I'm not off the Elvis Brenner train just yet. I just completely butchered everything that I wanted to say, but let's break down Esteban Ribovics first. Esteban Ribovics is a technical striker with good power and decent grappling beyond that. He is one of those fighters that always wants to go for the finish. He has nice combinations, heart, speed. The guy isn't afraid to get dirty. He can use calculated chaos, remaining the technique while he's swarming people. His heart and will to win are also on like another level. Like he's one of those guys that will, he throws everything, man. He'll still throw leg kicks to the thigh, and we don't see that much in MMA anymore, you know? After looking pretty much phenomenal in a lot of his performances, he shockingly just recently lost to Nasrat Hakparas in his last outing, which that fight was super frustrating to watch on his end because all he did was headhunt. He was on the offensive each time, but Nasrat just kept his hands up, and he was just the entire time like punching the guard. He didn't adjust until literally the end of that fight, and by then it was just too late. He's still a really, really, really good fighter. I just think that I personally might have been overrating him. But then again, like, Nasrat has been improving. He's a sneaky good fighter, and he's just like winning and winning and winning and winning. And I know he had that one Rocky performance, but he's good too, okay? Got a little off topic. Elvis Brenner. He's a grappler with subpar striking. He can be dangerous on the ground. His heart and cardio are also insane. After getting some really, really nice wins coming into the UFC, he has found himself, unfortunately, on a 2-fight skid over here, but he still had a great performance against Mikdebek Oralbai, and he had another decent one against Joel Alvarez. Like I was saying earlier, I'm not off the Elvis Brenner train at all. I still think he's a very good fighter. He just ran into some guys that could beat him, and, like, he ran into some good talent. What can I say? Like, I know, like, it was a little bit of a step down against Joel Alvarez. Like, depending, I don't know, man. I think Mikdebek Oralbai is a little bit better than Joel Alvarez. I don't know how people feel about that. But, like, he took on some really good guys. He's one of those guys that you just can't count out. So, like I said, I've been overrating Esteban Ribovics, I think, now. I was looking at him like this absolute killer of a striker, but then I watched him and his poor fight IQ against Nasrat. That, you gotta fix that, right? You just gotta. There's no way you look to improve and go into a new training camp in your prime and go, yes, I'm just going to headhunt if someone puts their hands up. That worries me, because what if he does that again? All Elvis Brenner will have to do in this fight is, and if you walk forward, you can blast a couple kicks as long as your hands are up, block, hook coming in, straight shot. You could literally fight as if Esteban Ribovics shows up not improved, the game plan's out. Leg kick, chop him down. Kick to the body, teep, oblique kick. Hands are up. He's throwing the combination back. You gotta improve, right? You gotta. I would imagine that he's gonna be an improved fighter. If I didn't see that last performance that he just had, I'd be like, yeah, he'd probably beat Elvis Brenner. But again, Elvis Brenner is one of those guys that you can't count out. I'm gonna pick Esteban Ribovics. I'm gonna pick him. He's had one bad performance that I've seen. But, yeah, it was a bad performance. I didn't think he looked good there. It was frustrating to watch, man. I'm still going to pick him. But Elvis Brenner's a very good fighter, too. It's a low-confidence pick of mine. I'm going to pick Esteban Ribovics. And honestly, I kind of want Elvis Brenner to win. I think he's fun to watch, man. But so is Esteban. Like, it's one of those fighters, again. It's one of those fights, again, where I don't really want to watch either guy lose. But let's see what the odds are over here. Esteban Ribovics still sitting at a big favorite. Or a decent-sized favorite. That is not surprising to me at all. I know a lot of people are probably still hyped up on him. Maybe I'm just too hung up on his last performance, but I can't help it. I'm worried. I'm worried about that fight, and I think you should be too. But continuing on up the card, though, guys, we have another really, really good fight. We have Danny Silva taking on Kevin Vialhos. I am excited for this bout, guys. I know a lot of people are on the Kevin Vialhos train. I'm excited. Let's talk about these two fighters, okay? Let's talk about them right here, right now. Danny Silva. He is a fighter who is close with and trains with Cub Swanson. And, like, you know, a lot of people mention he's pretty big for the weight class. I don't remember how much he weighs, but regardless, I'm a fan of Cubs, and I always want to see him and his students do well, like I was talking about with Glover. But Danny, though, got a little off topic. He's a well-rounded fighter with good pressure, volume, fast boxing, great leg kicks, accuracy, combinations, BJJ. He has everything. Unfortunately, though, he is open to get hit on the feet, but he is also, on the other hand, very durable. I love when he goes for finishes, he's very patient. He's like secures them better than like he would if he would go wild. I've been watching Danny Silva since the LFA, and he's had some very fun and some very impressive performances. He's had some really great wars, shining performances, and he seemed to be like, or was a really hyped up guy coming into the UFC. And while in the UFC he hasn't really been destroying anyone, he's been having some really good fights. He's been getting good experience against great guys, and I think people actually underrate him just a little bit. But where people might be overrating, on the other hand, is Kelvin Vialhos. Kelvin Vialhos is a striker with great boxing, head movement, accuracy, volume, and excellent combinations behind all of that. He does a really good job at attacking all parts of the body as well, and I love when fighters do that. He comes forward with great pressure, overwhelms people as they get in close, or as he gets in close, excuse me. The only other thing to mention, though, about Kevin is we still do have questions about how good his ground game is, but since coming to the UFC, he's had 2 really good performances, and like one being, since joining the UFC and the Contender Series, but that's all we can really say about Kevin Vialhos right now. He does seem to be super motivated, he does seem to be excited to perform, so I'm excited to see how he comes in, and he's taking on like a little bit of a step up in competition, I would say, against Danny Silva. This is tough because I just know that Kevin Vialhos probably is going to be a big favorite, but I do like Danny Silva. Kevin Vialhos, 23 years old, still improving. Again, he's very motivated and very, very good for his age. It's giving me like Joshua Van vibes, but not quite like that level. Am I crazy if I want to pick Danny Silva? Am I crazy? I think this is a fight you should not be betting on. Don't get me wrong. But then again, you do have 2 very durable guys, so I don't mind like a 1.5 round line for something like this. We'll have to see in the betting guide what's available. So I don't mind a round line for this. So you have 2 really, really tough guys. But I'm not over Kevin. I'm not all in on Kevin Vialhos like a lot of people are. He's had some really great performances so far. But Danny Silva's getting some good experience too. Plus, I've been following Cub Swanson and the gym and their journey. They seem to be very tight, very improving, very dedicated to their craft. So I can still trust that Danny Silva is at least working on improvements. I'm going to do it. I'm picking Danny Silva. I think it's a close fight, man. I think it's a very close fight. And I know people are going to call me crazy in the comments. I think it's a little bit of a 50-50 fight. I do. I like Danny Silva. A little bit overrated coming to the UFC, but he's still a very, very good fighter, okay? Danny Silva. I'm excited, man. I'm excited for this fight. Let's take a look what the odds are, okay? Yeah, I knew it. Kevin Vialhos sitting at a minus 460 favorite. So, I guess Danny Silva can be an underdog opportunity over here. With those odds, I think he has an excellent shot at winning. But, and I don't know. Maybe that won't age well. Who knows? I'm picking Danny Silva. All right, guys. Now moving back on up the card, we have a banger of a featured fight over here. We have the Karol Rosa taking on the great Nora Cornwell. I am excited to talk about this fight and don't want to skip it at all. But let's start with Karol Rosa. Karol Rosa is a high-volume striker for the division who can fight anywhere. She pushes a good pace and seems to be improving from fight to fight, but every time she shows up, like, the leg kicks might be looking a little bit better. She's somehow, though, still incredibly inconsistent, like winning and losing to both horrible opponents in a horrible division. So when I don't want to say that she's improving, but at the same time, she kind of is, like, maybe with leg kicks specifically. Like, now this is the actual worst division in the history of MMA, okay? Nora Cornwell, on the other hand. Nora Cornwell is an aggressive striker who is, for the division, very violent. She'll throw every kind of strike at you in order to get the finish, and at times, she can display low fight IQ while trying to finish her own fights. Unfortunately, is also with Nora Cornwell, she can get emotional when she is losing, but she's just an emotional fighter in general. But most of the time, you can count on her to show up, man. So she's violent. I don't really think she's all that great. But I do want to mention, though, like in her last fight against Haley Cohen, she showed up looking bigger and in better shape. This is something that we probably want to keep in mind if she keeps this up. So how's she going to look coming into the octagon? I don't know. So it's another one of those cases, kind of like we were talking about the Ketlin Souza fight. You have somebody in Karol Rosa. She is 18-7, incredibly inconsistent. You have Nora Cornwell, who at least shows up, and I go, okay, this girl's actually trying to really finish a fight over here. And sometimes she does. She looks okay compared to the rest of the division, except the clear gap against the champion. It's a tough one. I'm going to pick Nora Cornwell. I think that she's just in there to actually try and win fights. Karol Rosa kind of trying to point fight a little bit. There's nothing wrong with that, but she doesn't, like, effectively point fight. You know what I mean? She's okay. She's okay. She's not the worst in the division. I think Nora Cornell's just a little bit better. She's going to come in. Hopefully she's in better shape. I think she's going to get the job done. So I am going to pick Nora Cornell to get the win. Let's take a look at what OddsJam has to say over here. Kale Rosa sitting at a small favorite over here. I'm picking a couple underdogs today, eh? Nora Cornell is sitting at a plus 134. You know what? I do see a world where Nora Cornell just dances around Carol Rosa. But I don't know. At least Carol Rosa or Nora Cornell might come here and try. Who knows? I'm going to pick Carol Rosa. I'm sorry. I just don't want to talk about this fight. I'm going to pick Nora Cornhole, I meant to say. But these next two fights are very fun. But before we actually talk about that, I do want to stop you one more time. Guys, as you might know, I am your guy with too many YouTube channels. We do have multiple YouTube channels that we upload on daily. So if you're interested, check out the top of the link tree in the description down below, or you can find the direct links to those channels also in the description down below. I want to have my toes dipped in every niche in YouTube, and it's been cool to see. We've had some bleed over from the MMA channel. So if you're somebody, who has been taking a look at any other of the content, I make commentary content on various channels. I appreciate your time. Thank you for listening here. Also, OddsJam is a partner. If you would like to subscribe to OddsJam, you can check that out in the pinned comment description down below as well, using my link and code Clenbat. Let's talk about these final two fights, guys. And for this co-main event, we have Chris Duncan, who's got a little bit of hype up on him now, and he's taking on the returning Mateusz Rebecki. I am excited to see both of these guys back in the octagon. And while I already know that Chris Duncan's pretty simple to break down, but there's a few things I want to say about Mateusz Rebecki, so stick with me over here, okay, guys? Chris Duncan is a powerful striker who has a really, really huge heart in the octagon, and he always pushes to get his wins. He's pretty accurate, and he has no issues throwing himself into a firefight. His grappling is just okay, but after being counted out, he's actually coming off of a very good performance against Jordan Vucenic, and he's been looking to keep the ball rolling with that win streak. He's been looking okay, but there's not much else to break down about Chris Duncan, to be honest with you. But again, I do have a little bit I want to say about Mateusz Rebecki. So we'll break him down first, and there's something I want to mention, okay? Mateusz Rebecki is a grappler who will dive at you from anywhere. He really pushes a face, and he will always come forward. He has really good cardio and insane heart. The only issue with Mateusz Rebecki, and this is one of the things I want to talk about, is he has some scar tissue from that Ferreira fight, and that could be a major problem if it does get opened up. He can get rounds stolen from him. He's had some really good performances against really great talent, getting a ton of experience in the UFC, and is now finally returning after his absolute banger of a battle against Miktabek Orobai, where he had one of the best wars that I've ever seen. Like, literally, in that fight, guys, the heart and durability both guys showed was literally like none other. The fight was very close. I edged it to Rebecki personally, but after watching that, guys, I really do believe he belongs in there with some of the best. The war that he just went through was like none other. It was a great fight. All aspects of MMA were shown, but the only problem is that we have to keep in mind how Mateusz Rebecki is going to show up after a fight like that. Like, that's one of those, like, take your years off your life type performances that he just had. He could show up, perfectly fine and maybe even improved, but sometimes guys just aren't the same after going through something like that, like what we just watched Mateusz Rebecki go through. If you're a betting man, keep that in mind, because we've seen it time and time again. Sometimes fighters improve. Sometimes they get good experience. And we're going to talk a little bit about the same with Tatsuro Taira. Maybe a little bit different, but I worry about Mateusz Rebecki. So, if I were to assume that Mateusz Rebecki was okay in this bout, I believe Mateusz Rebecki would win. I think that he would just outwork Chris Duncan, both on the feet and on the ground. I would imagine he would implement his wrestling. And while Chris Duncan could surprise some people, like he's an underrated fighter, I just think that Mateusz Rebecki's better. That's all. But I'm definitely not going to be betting on this fight because of the performance that Mateusz Rebecki just had. What if he shows up, he's slow, took a ton of damage? You know, that scar tissue is a little bit of an issue too, because you can get the rules are damage over everything. You can get rounds taken from you. So I'm going to stay away from this fight, but I am going to pick Mateusz Rebecki to get the job done. And while Chris Duncan's really fun to watch, I like Mateusz Rebecki. I hope he wins. But let's take a look at odds over here. Mateusz Rebecki is sitting at an average odds favorite of minus 201. And that's a little surprising to me because I thought that he was going to be a bigger favorite. I don't know. I feel like a lot of people don't really consider the damage as much as I do, but that's just sounding like I'm tooting my own horn. I'm just wondering why he is a little bit of a smaller favorite. I expected to be bigger, but regardless, again, I'm going to pick Mateusz Rebecki. I hope he wins too. And now, guys, let's move on to the main event of the evening. Amir Albazi returning after his first loss, and first recent loss, and Tatsuro Taira returning after his first official loss. This is a very good fight. I am excited to watch it, and let's break both of these guys down, man. We'll start with Amir Albazi, okay? Amir Albazi is a very, we'll get into it, okay? He's a very high-paced grappler and striker with good movement and entries. The technique of the striking is okay, but the timing when he activates his wrestling is where he shines, okay? Now, of course, we all know he had neck and heart surgery. That makes me worried for the rest of his career. There is literally titanium in his neck, and I'm not sure if that showed against Brandon Moreno. Like, he had a really good win streak against some really good guys in this division, but then he got destroyed for 5 rounds against Brandon, and in that fight, he offered very little resistance. He had the heart and the chin in to stay in there, but just throughout the 5 rounds, man, like, he just ended up getting pieced up. I'm not sure if it's a surgeries or if Moreno looked great or a combination. He looked awful in that fight. Like, that's another thing that we need to keep in mind, man. Like, will he look like this again? I have no clue if it was him or if it was Brandon that affected the result, because Moreno's still a great fighter. He's still having great performances. Maybe it was just that next step. I don't know. But Tatsuro Taira, on the other hand, he is a grappler with great BJJ. His striking, though, I will say, it is very underrated, but he definitely wants to take his opponents down. That's where the game plan always is. The striking defense on top of that, though, is also good as well, and he's patient. He waits for his moments. He has a ton of heart, and we just learned that he has 5-round cardio. His transitions on the ground are very smooth, and he's always working for submissions. He's also on like Amir Albazi, he also was on a really nice win streak, but ended up getting it snapped by Brandon Royval, in which there's no shame in losing to Brandon Royval, especially with the performance that he had in that bout. He lost 3-2, but in my opinion, he proved that he belonged in the octagon, and like belonged with the best in the UFC. To be honest, though, I will say if Royval wasn't dumb, he would have been finished. Either way, he just went through a war for 5 rounds, just barely losing. Royval put him through a dogfight like he's never been through before. Now, perhaps it was a good experience for him, but I think that's I think that we kind of needed to see him go through something like that. Like we were just talking about Mateusz Rebecki. I worried about how he's going to return. Tatsuro Taira didn't exactly take that life-changing damage, so I think a war that he just went through with Brandon Royval would actually be a little bit helpful for him. Now, you have more asterisks on this fight like I was talking about. Like, I genuinely have no idea if it was the surgeries, if it was the layoff, how often he was training. Is his body permanently changed for Amir Albazi? Or did Brandon Moreno just look good? If that same version that fought Brandon Moreno shows up against Tatsuro Taira, I'm very confident in saying that Tatsuro Taira will get the job done. But if we ignore that last performance and we ignore the surgeries, which we shouldn't, I think Amir Albazi could absolutely hang with Tatsuro Taira. Tatsuro Taira was coming off of a performance and even in a loss where I still think that he looked great and he proved that he belongs at the top of the division. I'm going to pick him to win. Both guys just lost. Taira looked great. Albazi looked like crap, and now he's got titanium in his neck and had heart surgery. I can't pick a guy until I see him have a good performance. I'm not going to pick him to win. It could be like, that's some life-changing thing. It's like Kane getting back surgery and people expecting him to win. I can't believe he lasted as long as he did with Brandon Moreno. Like, I mean, I wish him all the best. I can't pick him to win a fight. I'm picking Tatsuro Taira. Plus, that last fight, like I said, it's only made me more confident in Tatsuro Taira as a contender. He's been looking great. I hope he gets a job done too. Tatsuro Taira is going to be my official pick. Now let's take a look over at Odds Gym over here. And Tatsuro Taira is sitting at a sizable favorite over there. That makes sense. Again, I would imagine a lot of people are also talking about the surgeries of Tatsuro, or excuse me, with Amir Albazi and how he showed up. And you can see an over 4.5 round of minus 133. Can Tatsuro Taira submit Albazi? I wouldn't say that prior to the Brandon Moreno fight, but yeah, he didn't look so great, man. I would imagine Taira is going to work him, though. Taira is going to be my pick to win. I'm excited for this card, man. Thank you so much for watching. Why don't you check out a video that's been popping up on the channel? It's the MMA community's reaction to Dana White and John Jones telling him that he's not going to be fighting at the White House. You can check it out right there. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Take care, guys.